Okay, so we're going to go over, there's Jen. Great. Are you there? There you are. There you are,
Hi
Jen.
there.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for joining me.
Of course.
I hope that some other people will join us. And I'm still getting ready here. There we go. That's what I need to do because I do have a PowerPoint that I wanted to share. And it's the same one we shared last time, but I think it's a really good way to talk about the net metering and also talk about batteries because it's a good presentation.
On the last one, you didn't record, so they could only just go back on Facebook and watch it. But that way, with this one being recorded, we can add this to your YouTube and it can live there too. So that'll be useful.
Great. Well, I will do it. I'm probably going to go through it a little bit quicker this time. And not as because we already did do this once before. And if folks want to jump in, we can certainly do that. And okay, I'm gonna try to share my screen. Says there we go, share screen. Share screen, there we go. Okay, that should be working. Not quite yet. There. Okay, did it pop up?
Yep, it looks like you are live. We're good.
Okay, let's make sure I can advance these properly as we go. And let's see here. This may take a little bit of, there we go. Working? Great.
Yep, looks good.
Okay. Well, hi, thanks for joining. I'm Bill. This is Jen.
Hi.
Jen is my marketing guru from the Jen Advantage, and she helps me keep all these things together, and she's going to keep an eye on questions for us. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Facebook chat and we will certainly respond to them. So we've been getting a whole lot of questions about what net metering 3 is and the change from net metering 2 to net metering 3. And as you can see, there are all kinds of crazy details and lots of things that, you know, most people don't really want to dive into. So we're going to make it really quick and brief. So basically, the purpose of net metering is the ability for us to get credit when we have solar. This is the way that we make our money back. We get credit on our utility bill. When we create more electricity than we need, the meter runs backwards, getting credit. And when we need more electricity than we are producing, when we have to purchase it, the meter runs forward and creates a charge. And the difference between those two, it's charged once a year. It's called net metering. And we get a true up and we pay our bill once a year. And so here's this graphic. As you can see, the solar panels convert energy from the sun into electricity. Inverter converts it from DC to AC current to support our home. The energy is used and anything left over goes through the bidirectional meter back to the grid. But if we need more than we're producing, then we purchase it from the grid and comes back to our house. So the net metering assists in determining the payback of your solar system. And right now it's the best time to get solar because it only takes about 5 years for PG&E customers to get your money back through net metering. And this change that's happening April 14th, that's prompting all these discussions, is going to change that 5-year number. So it's a great right now for PG&E customers. It's PG&E, Southern California, Edison, and San Diego Gas and Electric are the ones that are being affected by this change, but not SMUD or Roseville Electric. So if you have those two, you don't have to worry. You're in good shape. Certainly we will still do solar in those locations, but if you are a PG&E customer, now is absolutely the time. And this is the reason why, is because your return on investment, the payback, all the money that you save from solar energy will cover the cost of your solar system in about 5 years currently for PG&E customers. And it's going to be 9 or 10 or even 12 years under net metering 3. And that begins April 15th. Now, the good news is you don't have to have your installation done by April 15th. We just have to get your application in. So it's not too late for you. There's other things about net metering 3 that we can talk about, but I'm gonna skip. But it does bring us right to our next section. Do you think this is a good time to talk about the next section? So people, that was the other topic that people wanted to hear about, was about batteries. And I'm actually a lot more excited about batteries than net metering, but we do need to do net metering because it's time to get solar. You can't wait. Now is the time to get solar if you're a PG&E customer. So what do you think? Batteries?
Yeah, and it's before we switch over to that too, as far as the solar goes, with the net metering and this big change, is there still like, are there any rebates or tax credits available for solar as well? Like to do if they do that right now? Because I know a lot of people are probably concerned with like costs, like they want to do it, but they can't do it. They think they can't do it right now. Like what is out there for them to help them?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So most people are finding that the cost of solar is actually quite a bit less than they expect because of advances in technology. It has become less expensive and more affordable. It's really, really the best time that I've seen as long as we've been doing solar. But there are tax credits. There's a 30% federal tax credit that's available. It offsets your taxable liability. And I know that's just a big term, but it means that if you owe taxes, then you can take advantage of the tax credit. So pretty much all of us do. Some of us do not end up owing taxes, but pretty much everybody does. And the other nice thing is that tax credit can actually apply to multiple years. You don't have to use that tax credit immediately in 1 year. Wait, this is where I say consult your tax advisor to make sure that you can qualify for the tax credit. But yes, the tax credit is a big important benefit that really helps solar to be much more effective. A lot of people don't know that the tax credit applies to the batteries too. So and the other good thing about the tax credit is that it was going down, it was reducing, and each year there was going to be less tax credit and less tax credit. But thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed in 2022, the tax credit is actually extending all the way through 2032. So that tax credit is certainly available. For folks that may have installed solar in the past and want to get extra solar on your house because you want to take advantage of net metering too, you can all still qualify for the federal tax credit. So your new solar can apply for the federal tax credit. And also, probably the other thing to add is that folks who need to make changes to their home in order to support the solar, so say, for example, you need a new electrical service panel in your home, the tax credit will apply to that too if you're doing it in conjunction with your solar. So again, consult your tax advisor, but that's my understanding of the way the tax credit works. So
a lot of opportunities. That's great.
Very good time. Oh, and if you're listening tonight, I'm certainly willing to offer an additional credit, toward your solar, because we are really trying to encourage people to do this. I would like to offer another $500 discount. So you just say you saw us on, you saw my Facebook Live presentation tonight on March 20th, and you want to get the $500 discount, that is available to you as well.
Awesome.
So, yeah. Okay, great. Were those good questions about those things?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good segue into the battery, since they can get that not rebate, but tax credit on the battery as well.
Yeah, exactly. So the batteries, the reason why the batteries are coming up with net metering, with the net metering change, is because the net metering 3 is actually going to encourage the use of batteries even more so. So if you're getting solar now, which you should absolutely do, and part of why I'm not spending a lot of time on it is because we talk about it all the time. I feel like we're just a broken record. You need to get solar now if you're a PG&E customer. But the new net metering will be one of the reasons that we're going to the new net metering is because they're really trying to really encourage people to get batteries. There's a lot of problems with the grid for PG&E. There's a lot of reliability issues. And especially for folks who live up in the foothills, if you're on a well or you're in a fire area, it's really difficult when your power goes down. And so there's a lot of money available through the SGIP rebates to encourage people to get batteries. If you're not in the foothills, the SGIP rebates don't apply as much, but you do get a little bit of credit. But why batteries? Why whole house batteries? Why do batteries? How do they integrate with solar? So they do three things that are really pretty fantastic. One is they provide power at your home when the grid fails. So it's a lot like a generator, but so much better than a generator. The grid goes down, instead of having a power outage, you still have power at your house. The other thing is that the solar on your house continues to operate. So you can keep creating electricity. You've got your own little microgrid that runs and does great things and supports your house in pretty amazing ways. Now, without batteries, when you just have the standard net metering connection, when the grid goes down, your electricity and your solar turns off. So during a power outage, the solar doesn't help produce in any way. So the batteries kind of trick the inverters for the solar panels to make them think they're still connected to the grid and they continue to produce power. So it's a pretty amazing thing. And if you think about it, if you can create more electricity than you're using at your house, you can stay off grid for a long time. So the energy independence that these batteries create is really pretty fantastic. The last thing is they do something called load shifting, where you can more effectively use your solar electricity. So I had given you a graphic a little bit ago about what happens with net metering. Oops, there we go. And the extra electricity that you produce goes to the grid, but with batteries instead, that extra electricity goes into your battery. And in the morning, you fill your battery, and then the afternoon and nighttime, instead of purchasing from the grid, then you use that electricity from your batteries. It's really pretty fantastic. So the CPUC estimates that battery and solar and battery customers are going to save more than just battery only on the new net metering 3. So this is about $4,320 over the life of the battery, which continues to help pay for that. So between the federal tax credit, the SGIP, and the extra savings of having a battery, it almost pays for the full cost of the battery. Now, again, money savings actually comes from the solar that you put in your home and you reduce your electrical bill, but the battery is what provides energy independence. So savings from solar, electrical independence comes from the battery. This is just a little graphic here. That's kind of an interesting graphic. And we'll probably stop for questions here in a second, but this is a graphic that shows an image actually right from a customer's home in which we installed some Enphase batteries, and they have solar, and you can see their solar is producing 3.1 kilowatts, but their house is only using 0.4 kilowatts at the time. And so there's some extra solar generation. And the first place it goes is to help fill the battery. And when the battery is full, right here, you can see it's 70%, so it's continuing to fill. The extra solar goes back to the grid. And so the customer is able to generate credits still and continue to save money, but they're producing that energy independence by having the battery. Now, there's a point later in the day when they're producing enough electricity. Perhaps it's expensive to buy it from the grid at this time, and it doesn't make sense to buy electricity from the grid right now. And their house is using more electricity than they're producing. And so the batteries actually discharge to help support the house. So there it is, the battery in action, reducing their utility bill and giving them some additional independence. At nighttime, first, the electricity comes out of the battery. There's no solar being produced. And then the rest of it is imported from the grid. So instead of importing 4.9 kilowatts, this customer is only importing 1 kilowatt, which is a significant difference. They're using the energy that they made earlier in the day. Here's an example of the grid being down. There is no grid. There's no power going back to the grid. There's no power coming from the grid, but the solar is still producing more than the home is needing. So the battery is charging. Oh, here's a situation in which it's nighttime and the grid is down. There's no power coming from the grid and the battery is supporting the house completely. So it's pretty cool. Oh, so here's some pictures. Here's some examples of Tesla Powerwalls and what they might look like installed. This is one of our installations. Here's another example with some different parts visible here, but batteries are really very, very cool things. And I really like talking about batteries because they really do make a quality of life difference for people. But they are a little bit pricey. And if you choose to get a battery now, one of the nice things is that you can, if you choose to get solar now, you'll be put in net metering too. And if you decide in the future to add batteries, you're not going to be pushed to net metering 3. But if you are adding batteries to your net metering 2 solar system, you can choose and you can run the numbers and you can see what makes more sense. Does it make more sense to have net metering 3 with your new batteries, or does it make more sense to stay on net metering 2? So you have some flexibility and adjustments for that. So, all right, any questions about those things?
Well, there's none in our chat, but I have a question.
Okay.
So when you were talking about, the grid going down, I was really thinking about like how, like being worried about people who are elderly, like thinking about my in-laws during these storms that we had, and if power goes out, there's certain things. I mean, even just keeping lights on for their safety of walking around is one thing, but keeping them warm and the heat and all that. So in theory, if you've got solar and you install this battery, it might not, run your air conditioning at full force for a week, but essentially it's that peace of mind, right? That
Yep.
they would then just be able to keep up with their standard of living of, staying safe.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you have a CPAP machine, or if you have an oxygen generator or something like that, the batteries just can be really, really important. This one house, let me go right back to this again, because this is kind of an interesting story. This house actually is in Forest Hill, and this customer doesn't have solar. They only have batteries on their house, and you can have batteries without solar. And a couple of interesting things. One is they have a little power inlet right here for a generator, because I don't know if you can see my mouse. Does my mouse show up?
Yeah, I can see it clearly.
So before we did the installation, I'm sure you know about Forest Hill. It's up in the foothills. It's fairly high elevation. They had 4 feet of snow recently, and before the Powerwalls, they would use their generator all the time. Now, because they don't have solar and they can't recharge their batteries when there's a power outage, their home will only last as long as the batteries are connected. And they actually called me after they had been without power for 4 days. And they said, the batteries have supported us for 4 days. It's time for us to plug our generator in. And so they were able to run for 4 days. Now, most of us, we don't have power outage for 4 days. Now, they were kind of in a bad spot. This last big storm was horrible. There was going to be at least 4 more days where they were going to be without power. And I felt badly for them and wished that they had solar on their home, but they didn't have solar and they didn't want solar. But that's also why we added the generator power inlet, because they were in a place. And so the batteries and generators can work together. Batteries and solar panels can work together. In fact, the new Enphase system, which we're pretty excited about, actually has a generator control built into it. So you don't have to have the big Generac transfer switch. It will use the transfer switch that you already put in with the batteries, and it'll automatically stop and start the batteries. There was a case down in Santa Cruz that I had heard about recently, where they had a automatic generator, they had solar, they had the batteries, and the storms and the winds were so bad that they couldn't use their solar, and the grid went down for a very long time, like a couple of weeks. And they were able to support their whole house with their generator for only running their generator for 4 hours a day. And it would recharge their batteries and it would support their whole house for them completely. And it worked really well. And it was a huge savings on their propane bill. They would have previously, they would have run 24 hours a day. And it was just it was a real big advantage. So it's really kind of neat to see these different technologies coming together in a way that provides, life and safety benefit for people that would otherwise be, in trouble. So
Yeah, and I feel like every year in this, this region, we are getting some sort of new, whether it's the fires or whether now it's this, rainstorms, or now it's all the snow. Like it's just completely unpredictable. So
yeah.
rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah. So we do have the ability now with the technology to kind of build our own little microgrids, and that can be backed up, in multiple ways. So I don't know if you remember the December a year ago, we had the huge power outages where people were out for weeks up in the foothills because all the trees had broken with the big snow. And tens of thousands of service calls literally for PG&E, and there were people without power for weeks. And there were people who had generators only. They ran out of propane and the propane trucks couldn't come in. People who had solar, their solar panels got covered up with snow and they couldn't create solar energy anymore until they got up and cleaned their snow off of their panels. And people who had batteries only, once the batteries drained, they were out without. And so, in situations where you're really dependent upon electricity in difficult areas, it makes sense to have multiple sources of electricity that you can use to back up. So, the customer who was on the generator only, if they had had batteries as well, that generator would have lasted them, those multiple weeks. If, the customer who had solar, and the solar had gotten covered up, if they had a generator to help support the batteries, it would have helped. And so anyway, it's oftentimes the multiple technologies, but that used to be really, really difficult to do, but now the products are available that make it quite easier to do.
So you can install the generators for them as well, if that's the route they want to go.
Yep. Now, if you have got a limited income and you can only choose one or the other, we highly recommend the batteries, especially if you're not in a snow area, because the batteries don't use fuel. So they're much, much less expensive to operate. They don't have moving parts, so you don't have to do oil changes and maintenance on the batteries. And they continue to keep your solar running, whereas a generator won't keep your solar running, and it's just an added expense. Whereas the battery will help your solar work more efficiently and even help cut your bill a little bit. So it's pretty valuable.
Nice.
So, yeah.
One question about solar. If someone has old solar on their house, so they bought a house and it's got solar that's 15, 20 years old and it's not doing anything for them anymore, is that something you can remove and like do new solar?
Yeah, so it depends on how old the system is, but there have been huge changes in solar, not only in the price, but in the way that it works and the efficiency. So for example, 10 or 15 years ago, the average watt production of a single solar panel, was maybe in the 225 to 250 range. And now our standard panel is a 400 watt panel. And the price of the panel is, relatively inexpensive. And so with the same footprint as your old system had, we can produce quite a bit more electricity, which is a value, but also the panels last longer. The amount of their degradation rate, in other words, the amount of efficiency that they lose each year, is much lower than it used to be. In fact, the standard panel that we offer has a 92%. Its production is guaranteed to be at 92% at the end of 25 years, which is just unheard of, so just the quality of the new panels and new microinverters is pretty fantastic. So,
Awesome.
Yeah. One thing I didn't mention, unless there's another question there, but one thing I didn't mention is that with the new Enphase technology too, they also have something called sunlight backup, which means that with a transfer switch installed, with the Enphase transfer switch installed, if you don't have batteries, you can support your house during a power outage just from your solar panels. And you never were able to do that before, but these new IQ8 microinverters give you the ability to do that. Now you still have to have the Enphase transfer switch. It's the controller, because you have to disconnect your house from the grid. You can't continue to do that. But the interesting thing that allows them to do this is, so you can't, if you're off grid and you produce more electricity than you're using, you have to do something with that electricity. You have to put it somewhere, like you have to put it in a battery or not. And the Tesla batteries that we were looking at previously, if you're off grid and your solar is producing and your batteries are full and you're not using very much electricity in your house, it shuts your solar down completely. It just shuts it down, waits till you drain your batteries a little bit, and then it turns the solar back on so that you can drain your batteries, because you can't create too much electricity. There's no place for it to go. So the new IQ8 microinverters, instead of shutting down, they actually modulate. The amount of electricity that they produces varies to match how much electricity you're using in your house. So you don't have to have a battery and you don't have to be attached to the grid. It's really, really neat technology. And so it's pretty incredible. And so another option would be to have solar and a generator, so that you can do sunlight backup during the day, and then the generator could support you at night without having a battery.
Okay, so that would only work during the day. Okay, that's why it's called sunlight.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the solar panels won't support your house at nighttime without a battery.
That's okay.
Yeah. But it's just such a neat technology. We've never been able to do these things before. And so there's so much flexibility that's available for customers now. So you can see why I get excited. I mean, net metering too is important. Everybody needs to know it's coming to an end, and you have to get your solar now. Don't wait. But the batteries are much more exciting. I'd like to talk a little bit too about what our process is, where we are at with solar, because we are getting more solar demand than we ever have. I mean, multiple requests for estimates every day. And, fortunately, most people that request an estimate with us go with our estimates. We have the fantastic 25-year AllGuard Panasonic warranty, which means that the panel, the microinverters, and the racking are all covered by Panasonic for 25 years, the labor and the materials. And that's really, really important because every week we get phone calls from people that say, hey, my solar company went out of business and my system doesn't work and I don't know what to do. I don't have a warranty. And I'm afraid with Net Metering 3, a lot of the companies who do solar only are going to go out of business. Because a lot of people are saying that the residential solar market in California is going to dry up with Net Metering 3 because the return on investment's a lot longer. There's going to be a lot fewer people that are interested. It's not nearly as good as an investment when you're comparing where to put your money. Why should I put it in solar if I can make more money in a different way? And so it's just so important to have that manufacturer supported warranty. Now, we're going to be in business. Even if we didn't do another solar installation again, we're still going to be in business, because we don't just do solar. We're electricians. We do electric vehicle chargers and spa circuits and service panel changeouts and all kinds of things, right? And so if we never did another solar installation, we would be busy for a very long time. So I'm confident that we could still honor your warranty, but just the same, we still offer a manufacturer-backed 25-year warranty, which we just feel is really, really important. So that's really helped a lot of people, plus the superior panels, the superior Panasonic panels, and hopefully our really good customer service that we try really hard to do all the time, just provides a better experience for people too. So fortunately, we're selling most of our estimates. But because of that, we're getting pretty busy, and people are, starting to ask about how long it's going to be before we can actually come and do their installation. The other thing we're noticing too is that PG&E is slowing down, so which is expected because so many people are trying to get their Net Metering 2 applications going through. And so once we do our installation, we can't actually turn the system on until we get permission from PG&E, and that permission process is taking a long time now. It's taking longer. So that's a little bit of a frustration. So what we are telling folks is that if we can be in contract together, if we can get your plans designed and approved, plus a couple of other documents that you just need to provide approval on. If we can get all that together by March 31st, we are very, very confident that we can get you into the Net Metering 2 program. Now, between March 31st and April 14th, we're still going to be working on all of those ones that came in before March 31st. So we're still going to try very hard to get you in, but we can't guarantee that we're going to be able to get you submitted by April 14th. And then, of course, after April 14th, you're in the Net Metering 3 program. Now, the really good news is that your installation doesn't have to be complete. You just have to be in contract, and you just have to have the plans and the application submitted, and you actually have 3 years to do the installation. So maybe you can't afford solar right now. That doesn't matter. Now's the time to get in contract, and you can get your finances together and get your installation done anytime over the next 3 years. Now, the price might change a little bit, and we're going to ask for deposit, of course, but you can reserve your Net Metering 2 spot and still have 3 years to do construction. So that's one really good thing that is happening right now. But anyway, just do it now. We've got 10 days, 11 days, right? It's getting short. And, we're also getting very, very busy. Fortunately, we're still doing our solar estimate turnarounds within 24 hours. And, there's on our website. Can I show a quick, our website quickly? Maybe, I don't know if I can do that actually. But if I can quickly show it, we have a fantastic news spot on our website that I'm pretty excited about. Oops, let's do this. Okay, here is our fantastic website. Let me share my screen. I know I'm running over time, but this is just so cool that I'm excited about sharing this. Okay. Sharing, working?
Well, I have a lag, so I'm sure it is, but it takes a second. There he goes. Yeah.
Okay, there it goes. Okay, great. So look right up here where it says request an estimate. If we are busy and we can't get somebody out there on site, which is what we really want to do, you can press request an estimate, and look, there's a virtual estimate for EV home charging stations, or a virtual estimate for a home solar panel installation. And again, we would much prefer to have an in-person appointment, but you can fill out this form right here. And this will give us all of the information that we need in order to provide a solar estimate without doing a site visit. Now, there's a slight chance it might change once we do the site visit, but 90% of the time it's great. There's also instructions in this form about how to download your information from your utility so that you can easily provide the electrical information that you need. And it's just a really, really quick and easy way to get a solar estimate without having to wait for an appointment. So, and right now we're still returning those within about 24 hours. Well, 1 business day, I should say. So there's still plenty of time to do that and get your solar estimate and get you in Net Metering 2. And our amazing web person, Jen Esparza, put that together. It's fantastic. Thank you, Jen, for that amazing form that makes it so much easier for people to get solar estimates.
Yeah, anything to make your job a little easier.
Thanks. That's why we use the Jen Advantage. Yes. All right. If there aren't any other questions, I think we're probably done. We went over our time.
Nope, no other questions. I think that was excellent, though. Very informative.
Okay, good. Well, I hope it's helpful for folks, and I really appreciate you helping me with it, Jen.
My pleasure.
And all right, you have a great evening. Everybody else have a great evening. Anybody else have a great evening. And thanks. All right, bye.
Bye.